On this episode of China Uncensored, the stunning conclusion to my hopefully award-winning series. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. Welcome to the final episode in my series about Falun Gong and why it's persecuted in China. In parts 1 and 2, we've seen how former Chinese leader Jiang Zemin started persecuting Falun Gong as a power grab in the Communist Party, and how he stacked the government with people who would support him in that persecution, like former security czar Qiqong. But if we've learned anything from the Communist Party, it's that the power struggle isn't over until the fat lady sings. Even though Jiang retired and moved his people into position, they're not safe. Now that they've amassed this power by persecuting Falun Gong, they've got a giant target on their backs. So now it's time to play Communist Party Takedown! That's a registered trademark. Who's our lucky first contestant? Looks like it's everybody's least favorite princeling, Bo Xilai. Bo is the son of prominent party elder Bo. You might remember him from the last episode when he helped Jiang get rid of a little problem named Chao Shi in 1998. In return, Jiang made Bo Xilai one of his people and helped him move up the communist ladder. Now let's meet contestant number 2, Bo Xilai's right-hand man, Wang Lijun. When Bo and Wang were in Liaoning province, they both persecuted Falun Gong practitioners with gusto. Bo expanded the labor camp system, and more Falun Gong adherents were sent to labor camps there than in any other province. There is also evidence that Wang Lijun personally oversaw forced organ harvesting from Falun Gong practitioners. More on that here. So, for taking part in his benefactor's genocide, let's see what they've won, folks! Promotion after promotion. Now, he could stop there, or risk it all for what's ever behind these doors. Behind door number 1 is a fabulous promotion to the position of vice premier, followed by membership in the 9-member Politburo Standing Committee, the inner circle of the party, possibly by taking over the seat of fellow Jiang faction member and persecution buddy Qiqong when Zhou retired. That would make him the heir of the Jiang faction, and maybe even someday, the supreme leader. Instead, he chose door number 2. Purged. Oh, sorry, Bo. That's how it goes sometimes. You see, then leaders Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao were fighting back against Jiang's faction, and they used the persecution of Falun Gong to do it. Wen said Bo was too much of a liability to become vice premier because Falun Gong practitioners kept bringing lawsuits against him whenever he went overseas on state business. And not too many people argued. So instead of becoming vice premier, Bo Xilai was sent off to become party chief of Chongqing, a huge, troubled provincial-level city in southwest China, far, far from Beijing. Chongqing was supposed to be the dead end to Bo's career. The thing is, Bo was a ruthless and flamboyant self-promoter, and he wasn't going to go down without a fight. He brought Wang Lijun in as police chief, and together they struck terror into the hearts of anyone who opposed Bo in Chongqing. Bo also started the Chongqing model, a mix of populism and economic development that directly challenged the leadership, and got him a lot of good press too. Behind the scenes, Bo was still working with Qiqong and doing things like wiretapping Hu Jintao's phone calls. Gonna say he overreached himself there. Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao decide to take Bo down, and they start by investigating Wang Lijun. You see, in a traditional communist takedown, you don't go directly for the guy, you start with his associates. Wang and Bo both knew how communist takedowns work, so they both freak out. Bo refuses to protect Wang, so Wang, afraid that Bo will kill him, flees to a US consulate, setting in motion the most interesting year that China journalists have ever had. Luckily, Bo's wife, Gu Kailai, has also possibly murdered a British man named Neil Heywood, so that whole thing massively distracts everyone and partially conceals the takedown and ongoing power struggle. So at the end of 2013, Wang, Gu, and Bo are all in prison for corruption, murder, and corruption. Hu Jintao steps down, and instead of a rising starlet in Jiang's camp, the new leader of China becomes Xi Jinping. But the power struggle isn't over. So, who's next? It's Qiqong, Bo Xilai's persecution buddy, and the next highest person in Jiang Zemin's chain of command. I've talked before about how Xi Jinping has tried to cut out Zhou's power base by doing things like reducing the influence of his former position, ending the labor camp system Zhou expanded to persecute Falun Gong, and investigating Zhou's cronies in the oil industry for, $14.5 billion worth of corruption. Surprisingly, by which I mean completely unsurprisingly, people who are willing to beat peaceful meditators to death in order to gain power are also the same kind of people who dabble in massive amounts of corruption on the side. First you launch a persecution, then you get the power, then you get the money. But Xi Jinping can use his anti-corruption campaign to take all of them down so he can become the supreme leader. And there are already signs that it's not going to end with Zhou. Li Dongsheng, the former head of the 610 office, is already being investigated. And there are reports that Zheng Qinghong, who was Jiang Zemin's right-hand man, is next. So where has Jiang Zemin been through all of this? As his people get knocked down, Jiang has tried to stay above the fray. There were reports that he supported the removal of Bo Xilai, so he's willing to sacrifice people in the hopes that it will end there. But according to the Financial Times, Jiang recently warned Xi Jinping that the footprint of this anti-corruption campaign cannot get too big. Sounds like someone's getting a little bit nervous. And with rumors that his son and grandson are being investigated, it sounds like he should be. The power struggle is still ongoing, though, because Jiang's faction is still fighting back. They need to stay in power so they can make sure the things they did to get power stay under wraps. So, I know what you're thinking. Chris, if Jiang and his people gain power through persecuting Falun Gong, and many of the party's leadership never supported the persecution in the first place, why doesn't Xi Jinping just stop persecuting Falun Gong and use that to take down Jiang's faction instead of this whole anti-corruption campaign? First of all, don't question me. Secondly, it's complicated. The Falun Gong issue touches on a key issue for the Communist Party, freedom of belief. The party has never allowed religious freedom. If you want to attend church or go to a temple, you have to go to the church or temple that are directly sanctioned and controlled by the Communist Party. So reversing that position and letting people practice Falun Gong freely would be difficult. And stopping the persecution would mean admitting that it was wrong to do it in the first place. The party has never admitted wrongdoing for anything except the Cultural Revolution, which they only did because it directly threatened the party, and they managed to blame it all on Mao's wife. How could they redress the Falun Gong issue? Wouldn't the people who were imprisoned, or those whose friends and family died, demand justice? They'd also have to admit that everything in state-run media about Falun Gong for the past 15 years was just something they made up. So bringing up Falun Gong would be a huge political risk for Xi Jinping, especially since he doesn't have unlimited power yet. So could he just quietly stop putting Falun Gong people in jail and just not address it publicly? That's also impossible because of all the different power bases that Jiang set up for the persecution, like the 610 office and all the security departments that were under Zhou Yongkang. There would have to be a direct order from the top of the Politburo Standing Committee to stop the persecution. There's no way to do that quietly. So, where does that leave us? The power struggle will continue, but as long as the persecution of Falun Gong remains unresolved, it will be a problem for the Communist Party. But resolving it is also a problem for the Communist Party. A decade and a half ago, Jiang Zemin said Falun Gong would destroy the Communist Party. But ironically, as Xi Jinping deals with the consequences of more than a decade of abuse by Jiang's faction, could Jiang's persecution of Falun Gong be what destroys the party in the end? Thanks for watching this special series of China Uncensored. Share this episode with your friends and help get the word out. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.